Nicole Karkic and Jaclyn Whittal with you. Jaclyn will take you through the rest of the morning following these big stories for you, Canada. We've got the impressive nor'easter totals, Jaclyn. Yeah. Another storm system moving in, and let you talk about this.
Yeah, the warm streak finally coming to an end. Dr. Doug and I have, of course, talked about that over the last few weeks, that all good things must come to an end. So say goodbye to those really extreme warm temperatures and welcome in the cold.
Yes, and as we look to what's happening in eastern Canada, apparently a GoPro on the snowblower.
Oh, cool.
So you get the perspective of exactly what it looks like, in case we don't know what it looks like.
As Canadians, eh? I saw a cute GoPro attached to a dog. I think it was in New York after the storm, running through the snow, and the snow's everywhere. Oh yeah, a lot of fun.
Okay, well, speaking of snow, dogs playing in 41 centimeters in Moncton. Those gusts got up to 117 kilometers an hour. Look at St. John, though, 47 centimeters of snow, Jaclyn, and the warnings that are in place right now.
Yeah, Mary's Harbor, we're looking at, looks like the snowfall warning, the blowing snow down through the south, the lower North Shore, and we do still have some winter storm warnings in place.
Exactly, but a huge improvement compared to yesterday. However, the additional snowfall will bring you under 5 centimeters across New Brunswick, parts of Nova Scotia, and Northern Peninsula seeing a little bit more, and there are still lots of closures in the east. We had the Bonavista area had a late start for school. Nova Scotia school closures. Some events I was reading about, too, were just being a little bit postponed. So check on that, because there still is quite a bit of cleanup.
Sure, it's this past fall. Boy, does it look different. You know, Nantucket, Martha's Vineyard, those areas I was visiting, just getting clobbered with snow and the winds. I mean, there's Cape Cod. Boston picked up 74 centimeters of snow. A lot of talk about, well, New York didn't get the snow that they were thinking, but they did get 30 centimeters.
They still,
and all it takes is a little shift in track to do that, right? So I think forecasters did a great job
I
with
agree.
This one.
So still hit pretty hard. And as we look to the Prairie provinces, Jaclyn, an Alberta Clipper developing today is bringing a quick shot of snow. We have some warnings in place in northern Saskatchewan as well as the Interlake region of Manitoba. A little bit of pink popping up on that radar showing some mixing, the warm front associated with us.
That's right.
So 10 to 15 centimeters in the Interlake region of Manitoba, and then it moves into northern Ontario, Jaclyn.
Yeah, that becomes the next big storm for Ontario. 10 to 15 centimeters for the north. You can see from Dryden through Kapuskasing, maybe a little less for Dryden. But this is the developing low that'll move through not only southern Ontario, but right through to the east coast. Boston has a chance of getting hit yet again, and we'll keep you posted as we track this. Stay with me throughout the morning. A big impact on the U.S. and Canada, and I think our forecasters did a great job with this one. I was just talking to one of our meteorologists behind the scenes, Erin, and she said, you know, we're calling for 30 to 45 centimeters. St. John just overachieving by 2 centimeters, but that's it. Everywhere else, I think we nailed this. Fredericton, 26 centimeters, Moncton at 41, and these wind gusts, 117 kilometers an hour. So really, you know, as we mentioned, that blizzard potential really delivered. 10 to 20 centimeters still in the forecast up through the north. Deer Lake a little less than 5 down through Sydney, Nova Scotia. Let's go to the stateside part of this story too. Boston. I was saying earlier with Nicole, I was visiting this area this fall, actually. It was in October. And Cape Cod, sitting right there, Nantucket, Martha's Vineyard, such a beautiful spot in the summer. Imagine with these winds, over 120K and 74 centimeters of snow. Pretty nasty conditions. We take you down through the south. In New York, Mark Robinson, of course, was tracking this with Scott McPartland, who's a chaser friend of mine as well. Here they are. And it's so nice to have you along midweek. It's a Wednesday. What a week it's been already. How are we looking into the long-range forecast? Well, of course, Dr. Doug Gillen will join me. We do have a couple storms that we're talking about in the long range. And for all people, once again, the eastern seaboard. Yes, Boston all the way up into the Maritimes, expecting another winter storm. And to get a glimpse of where it comes from, well, just look right here, because that's the Alberta Clipper. It's going to dive along the jet stream through northern Ontario and then up the eastern seaboard again. So this is a current look at what's going on weather-wise. High pressure dominating in Ontario. It's chilly. There's going to be lots of sunshine. And then the departing cutoff low still working its way through Labrador. That's where we're seeing the bulk of our warnings right now, including extreme cold, winter storm warnings, that sort of thing. But most of it calming down for sure. This morning, -10. Good morning to you in Grand Prairie. -2 this morning in Calgary. Not too bad. Let's show you. Yesterday we had record-breaking temperatures. We talked about this warm-up. Of course, Monday delivered, Tuesday delivered as well. 14.4 in Calgary. Broke the record of 13.2 in 2011. Wasn't all that long ago. But look at somewhere like Pincher Creek that broke a record in 1901. Yeah, so a long time ago. With this system moving through, we're going to see our wind shift. So that's part of the reason that we're going to see a cool down. But the bigger reason is the overall pattern, bringing in a lot of colder air. We have snow north of the system. We do have a line of freezing rain potentially that will set up today. That could be through the interlake regions, Winnipeg, areas like that. And then high pressure is the next big game in town. And that's going to bring lots of sunshine, but get ready for that colder air that we've been promising a couple weeks ago. I think we were talking a little bit about something like this as we get into February. 5 to 10 centimeters in the forecast, 10 to 15 around the Lake Winnipeg area and the interlake regions, less than 5 back toward the west. Let's take a look at the freezing drizzle advisory. I just mentioned that freezing rain potential in Winnipeg. Carmen, Brandon, you're included in that. And then the snowfall warnings up through Melfort, Saskatchewan, and Swan River. Okay, Toronto, good morning to you. A little bit chilly. I went out for a run last night in Ancaster, Ontario after the fresh snow. Yeah, I think probably got a good 8 to 10 centimeters with that lake effect, and chilly temperatures, slushy, and really not so fleshy, but frozen like, I guess, on the sidewalk. So be careful out there. Southwest winds, there's high pressure. That's the clipper. Notice our winds will push out of the southwest. A little bump in temperatures, but a lot of snowfall expected. We are calling for 5 to 10 centimeters for tomorrow. Your commute in to work to Toronto won't be so bad, but on the way home, make sure you give yourself lots of extra time. The bulk of the snow will be through eastern Ontario and northern Ontario. You can see through Quebec about 10 to 15 centimeters. Okay, we'll come back with some of these stats, some of these totals with the last nor'easter. That's next. That's right. It isn't that simple. We'll get back to Mark and Scott. That's coming up on the show. Plus, we'll talk about you in the prairies next. Gorgeous shot. All right. Good morning, Calgary. So your Tuesday didn't just end there. It continued to deliver. 14 degrees is what you topped out at. Regina, you saw 3. That's pretty fabulous for the end of January. In Vancouver at 12. But do you remember Dr. Doug and I saying a couple weeks ago, all good things must come to an end, that this pattern would be changing? It's going to be changing as we get into the 1st of February. I'm sorry, but it's true. Winnipeg, though, you saw -1. That's way above seasonal for you, too. The cold air is still locked up, in areas like Montreal, -10. Now, this afternoon, you'll see about -9. Toronto at -4. Let's go back to the prairies, though, and talk a little bit about why we're getting this cool down. So a couple of reasons. Cold front, that's going to move through. This is an Alberta clipper. Along with that, we'll see some snow with this system, and maybe even some freezing rain along that warm front through the Interlakes region. Winnipeg, there's a freezing drizzle warning for you. So, be careful out on those roads. High pressure moves in next. That's really going to be the first sign of our pattern change, because the big ridge that's been out west, that's been ushering the Pacific air and the very warm air is going to be breaking down. So the jet stream is going to be sliding down to the south. That means we're going to usher in a lot colder air from the Arctic. So 5 to 10 centimeters, 10 to 15, and then the long range temperatures dropping right off. There's that freezing drizzle advisory, not warning, advisory. Winnipeg, Carmen, Brandon, and then Swan River, Fisher Branch, back to the west, and Melfort, Saskatchewan. Them not off the lake. Northeast wind that ushered in a lot of snow. Some folks getting up to around 10 centimeters of snow. I live in Ancaster, so I got into those bands as much as Hamilton and Grimsby in the Niagara region, and I for sure picked up a good 8 to 10 centimeters. How about this afternoon? It's going to be quiet. We'll see high pressure moving in. Winds will shift around out of the south. That's because this counterclockwise flow around this low is going to bring in snow, a bump up in temperatures. And I want to time out this snow for you because it's going to affect your Thursday. So tomorrow morning, GTAers, you're not going to be affected too badly. It's going to be pretty calm. But on your way home, make sure you give yourself a lot of extra time. You could be getting 5 to 10 centimeters of snow through the central and northern parts of the province. Could even get more, 10 to 15. But there you go, 5 to 10 for Toronto proper. You know what that can do to the roads, so be very careful out there. Lots of extra time all the way down the 401 corridor through London. Windsor will just get a dusting. Okay, let's go to Moncton. Yeah, gusting at 117 kilometers per hour. Chrissy Van, who was reporting there for us, still did a great job, by the way, Chrissy. Shout out to Chrissy and Mark Robinson out in those elements. Chrissy said it felt like the sand was just pelting her in the face. It really, really stung. I can imagine, Chrissy. Halifax, 13 centimeters, 72 kilometer an hour gusts. Greenwood at 26, Yarmouth at 25. I think our forecasters did a great job. We still have 10 to 20 centimeters for Labrador. We'll be right back. Nice to have you along. Little segment that I'm calling the System Showdown. Let's get you in front of every storm system right across the country. I'm meteorologist Jaclyn Whittal. Let's take a look at the west coast first. Some moisture here. This ridge starting to break down, so our temperatures are going to be cooling. Watching an Alberta clipper that's developing. We'll talk about that. And then More snow on the way as this low departs and another one moves into the same areas that were hit so hard. Boston, into the Maritimes, the Canadian side of the story. Let's talk in the west first. So that high pressure area still in play, but again, that ridge, that upper level ridge definitely breaking down. We are looking at some rain and higher elevation snow up through the extreme north, but dry down through the south. Let's go to system number 2. That's through the prairies, and there's some freezing rain potential along this warm front right through Winnipeg. Back to the west through Maple Creek, you have a freezing rain advisory, so just giving a heads up, you could see some slick conditions. Into your afternoon, that snow will push through northwestern Ontario, so again, there's the chance for some snow north of the front. And here's about how much you might get. 5 to 10 centimeters, not out of the question for areas like Grand Rapids, down through the south, around the Inner Lakes region, 10 to 15 centimeters. So yeah, there's some snow. It's an Alberta Clipper. It moves fast. It goes into Ontario next. You guessed it. So let's start that part of the story. Southwesterly winds out ahead of this system. Snow to the north, extremely heavy snow through Timmins, Sudbury, through parts of Quebec, eastern Ontario. As far as amounts, 10 to 15 centimeters expected through Timmins, Kapuskasing, Pembroke, 10 to 15, down through the GTA, 5 to 10. And I want to give you a heads up, this is going to start tomorrow afternoon. So your drive-in shouldn't be too bad for Torontonians, but as you go home, you want to give yourself extra time. All right, the last system I want to talk about, first of all, that one I just talked about in Ontario will be moving toward the east coast. That's the next big storm that we're going to be tracking. Let's talk about the one that's still departing. So wraparound moisture around that nor'easter, still bringing in some snow through Halifax, through parts of the Maritimes, Nova Scotia. This is what we call a trowel, and it stands for trough of warm air aloft. So when we pile that warm air up, we can still get precipitation out on the backside of a storm. So it's still departing. Winds will be calming. High pressure brings in a nice sunny break into your Thursday and Friday.